Welcome back to Mysterious Anecdotes. Did you know that ancient Egyptians made beer over 5,000 years ago? And guess what? It was one of their main foods. Today, we're jumping into the amazing world of ancient Egypt. Get ready as we uncover the top 10 most surprising facts about this awesome civilization. From building the giant pyramids to their everyday life, ancient Egyptians did some pretty cool things. Their legacy still amazes us today. If you think these facts are cool, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more awesome stories. Kicking off our list at number 10, ancient Egyptians loved their board games. One of their favorites, Fascinate. This game dates back to around 3500 BCE, making it one of the oldest board games in history. Fascinate wasn't just for fun, it had a lot of cultural and spiritual meaning, showing what the Egyptians believed about life, death, and the afterlife. Fascinate is played on a board with 30 squares arranged in a 3x10 grid. Players moved their pieces across the board based on rolls of dice or throwing sticks to see how many spaces they could move. The goal was to get all your pieces off the board before your opponent, using both strategy and luck. The game also represented the journey to the afterlife. Each square on the board symbolized different stages of this journey, filled with obstacles and challenges. Playing Fascinate was thought to help prepare for the trials of the afterlife, making it a meaningful activity. Fascinate's importance is shown by how often it appears in tomb paintings and artifacts. Game boards have been found in the tombs of famous people like Queen Nefertari and Pharaoh Tutankhamun. This suggests that the game was considered important for the afterlife. These discoveries show that Fascinate was more than just a game. It was part of burial customs and beliefs about eternity. The lasting interest in Fascinate highlights how clever the ancient Egyptians were and gives us a peek into their values and beliefs. It's amazing to think that a simple board game could represent deep spiritual ideas, connecting life and death in one of history's most fascinating civilizations. Talk about an exciting game night. At number 9, did you know the ancient Egyptians were writing wizards? They had two systems, the fancy hieroglyphs for monuments and the speedy hieratic script for everyday stuff. Hieroglyphs are probably the most famous type of ancient Egyptian writing. These beautiful symbols were used mainly for big inscriptions on temples, tombs, and monuments. Hieroglyphs consisted of hundreds of symbols that expressed complex ideas about gods, power, and the afterlife. They honored the gods and commemorated the deceased, and they also showed the social and political structure of ancient Egypt. On the other hand, hieratic script was created to be a simpler and faster way to write. This script was used for practical things like keeping records, writing letters, and making legal documents. It was often written quickly on materials like papyrus, a kind of paper made from reeds, or ostraca, pieces of pottery. Hieratic was perfect for scribes who needed to write quickly, showing how organized the Egyptian government was. Having these two writing systems shows just how advanced the ancient Egyptians were. Hieroglyphs highlighted their art and religious beliefs, while hieratic helped with daily life. This combination of writing styles shows that they understood communication as both an important art and a useful tool for managing their society. The creation of these writing systems was crucial for preserving Egyptian culture and history. They documented everything from religious ceremonies to everyday events, ensuring that their rich legacy would last for many years. The Egyptians were clever in using both the beautiful hieroglyphs and the efficient hieratic script, showing their appreciation for both art and practicality. Who knew writing could be so versatile? Number 8. Cats were basically royalty in ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, cats were more than just pets. They were sacred animals. They were loved and seen as symbols of protection and good luck. Cats were closely linked to the goddess Bastet, who was shown as a lioness or a woman with a lioness's head. Bastet represented home, fertility, and childbirth, but she was also a strong protector against evil spirits and sickness. Because of this, cats were very important in Egyptian beliefs. People in ancient Egypt cared deeply for their cats. Hurting a cat, even by accident, was considered a serious crime, and it could lead to harsh punishment, including death. This respect wasn't just because they liked cats. They believed cats brought divine protection to their homes. Cats helped control pests, especially rodents that could ruin food supplies, which made them even more valuable. When a family cat died, the family would show their sadness by shaving off their eyebrows. This was a way to express their grief and showed how much they loved their cats. This mourning practice highlighted how important cats were in everyday life. There are many stories about how Egyptians would go to great lengths to protect their cats. For example, during emergencies like a fire, people often saved their cats before saving their belongings. This shows how much cats were valued and treated like family members. Cats were sometimes mummified and buried with their owners, which showed their importance in both life and the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian culture, cats were seen as guardians who could accompany their owners on their journey after death, ensuring safety and protection. The way ancient Egyptians respected cats reveals their unique cultural values and beliefs. The special status of cats highlights the importance of animals in human society and shows the strong bonds that can form between people and their pets based on love, respect, and shared beliefs. Cats weren't just pets. They were symbols of protection and good luck. Talk about having a perfect companion. Coming in at number 7, let's talk fashion. Both male and female pharaohs wore false beards to show their connection to Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Fashion in ancient Egypt wasn't just about looking good, it was a way to show authority, divinity, and social status. Clothes and accessories had special meanings, reflecting the beliefs and hierarchy of Egyptian society. The false beards were not just for decoration, they represented a link to Osiris, who was often shown with a beard in art. Wearing these beards helped pharaohs appear as powerful leaders and divine figures, acting as a bridge between the gods and the people. The beard symbolized masculinity and strength, emphasizing the pharaoh's role as a protector, especially concerning the important beliefs about the afterlife. One remarkable example is Queen Hatshepsut, one of the few female pharaohs. She used a false beard in her sculptures and reliefs, which was a clever way to show herself as a strong ruler in a male-dominated world. Hatshepsut ruled from about 1479 to 1458 BCE and was known for her successful leadership and grand building projects. By adopting symbols usually associated with male pharaohs, she challenged the gender norms of her time and showed that women could also hold powerful positions. Hatshepsut's reign is an early example of female leadership in ancient Egypt, showing how women could navigate and change societal expectations to assert their authority. This highlights how important fashion and symbols were in ancient Egypt. Clothing choices were deeply connected to ideas about divinity, power, and social roles. From fancy headdresses to beautiful jewelry, every part of their clothing was a statement about who they were and their relationship with the gods. This connection between fashion and authority shows how complex and sophisticated ancient Egyptian society was, where even a piece of clothing could convey powerful messages about status and connection to the divine. Who knew that a beard could carry so much weight? At number 6, ancient Egyptians were way ahead of their time in dental and medical care. They practiced advanced hygiene techniques and even had surgical procedures. Long before we had modern dentists, they were smart about keeping themselves healthy. They created methods that helped shape future medicine. Even though they didn't have the dental tools we have today, they cared a lot about dental hygiene. To clean their teeth, they used a mix of powdered ox hooves, ashes, burnt eggshells, and pumice. This created a gritty toothpaste that helped with common tooth problems, especially because their diet had a lot of grain, which could contain grit and sand. But they didn't just focus on teeth. Egyptian doctors were also some of the first to specialize in medicine. While many doctors treated all kinds of illnesses, some chose to focus on specific parts of the body. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about this in 450 BCE, saying that some doctors only treated eyes, teeth, or stomach problems. They even had special titles like doctors of the tooth and shepherds of the anus to show what they specialized in. The cleverness of the ancient Egyptians in both dental care and medical specialization shows how much they cared about health, even with the tools they had. Their practices helped many people live better, and also laid the groundwork for medicine in the future. Number 5. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2580 BCE. The Great Pyramid of Giza is an amazing example of how smart the ancient Egyptians were at math, science and building. It was built around 2580 to 2560 BCE for Pharaoh Khufu and is one of the largest structures in the world. The pyramid is perfectly lined up with the 4 directions, north, south, east and west. What's incredible is that the builders made it so accurate, with only a tiny mistake, which surprises even today's architects and engineers, because they didn't have modern tools when they built it. Even now, making something this precise would be very hard. The way it's aligned shows that the Egyptians understood how the earth moves and rotates, which is impressive for such an ancient time. Many movies say the pyramids were built by slaves, but new discoveries show a different story. Instead, it looks like the pyramids were built by a well-organized group of workers who were paid for their labor. There were about 5,000 permanent workers and 20,000 temporary workers who worked in shifts for 3 to 4 months at a time. These workers were given food, housing, and even medical care. Some graffiti found on the walls even shows that these workers felt proud of their work and had fun together. Groups like the Drunkards of Menkaura and the Friends of Khufu wrote messages that show they worked as a team and enjoyed their jobs. This new information helps us rethink the old stories about how the pyramids were built and gives us a better idea of what life was like in ancient Egypt. Coming in at number 4, ancient Egyptians were making beer way before many other civilizations. They started brewing beer around 3000 BCE, and it was a big part of their daily life. Beer was so important to the Egyptians that it was almost like bread to them. The ancient Egyptians had special recipes for making beer, using different ingredients to create various flavors. They brewed it from barley, which was a major crop in Egypt, and mixed it with water and sometimes herbs for extra taste. Their beer was usually unfiltered, so it looked cloudy, but it was tasty and refreshing, especially under the hot Egyptian sun. Beer was more than just a drink during meals, it played a special role in their society. Workers on huge projects like building the pyramids were sometimes paid with beer instead of money. Imagine getting beer as a reward for your hard work. It was a great way to keep workers happy and energized. In ancient Egypt, everyone enjoyed beer, from the farmers in the fields to the pharaohs in their palaces. They even had festivals celebrating beer, showing how much they loved it. The goddess Hathor, who was the goddess of music, dance and fertility, was also linked to beer. People would raise their cups to honor her during celebrations. So next time you enjoy a cold drink, remember that ancient Egyptians were already having fun with beer thousands of years ago. They created a delicious beverage and made it a key part of their culture and daily life. Cheers to that. At number 3, ancient Egyptians had a unique use for baboons. These smart animals were trained to catch criminals. Imagine having a furry friend who could help keep your neighborhood safe. The ancient Egyptians knew how clever baboons were, so they used them to help with law and order. But that's not all. Baboons were also great at picking fruit, making it easier for farmers to harvest crops like dates. Their nimble hands made them perfect helpers during harvest time. Believe it or not, baboons even helped make beer. Their quick hands were useful in the brewing process, showing just how creative the ancient Egyptians were. Besides their useful jobs, baboons were also entertainers. They were trained to dance, adding fun and excitement to festivals and celebrations. Picture a baboon dancing to music. What a sight that must have been. The deep connection the ancient Egyptians had with baboons shows their love for animals. Baboons were not just pets, they were highly respected and sometimes even worshipped. Some ancient Egyptians believed that baboons were sacred and connected to the god Thoth, who was associated with wisdom and writing. Some mummies have even been found with tattoos of baboons on their bodies, showing how much these animals meant to the people of ancient Egypt. It's amazing to think about how these intelligent creatures played such a big role in society. They were more than just animals, they were helpers, protectors, and even symbols of worship. Who knew baboons could be such cool sidekicks? The second craziest fact involves King Tut. Recent DNA tests on his mummy have revealed that his parents were actually brother and sister. In ancient Egypt, it wasn't unusual for royal families to marry close relatives, like cousins or even siblings. They believed this helped keep their royal bloodline pure. This shocking practice shows how seriously they took their royal heritage. They thought it was important to maintain their power and status as rulers. Although this might seem strange to us today, it was a common custom back then. It reveals how determined the ancient Egyptians were to keep their royal families strong and influential. By learning about these customs, we can understand more about the beliefs and traditions of ancient Egyptian culture. Isn't it fascinating to see how different their world was from ours? And finally, our number one surprising fact about the ancient Egyptians is their surprisingly open attitude towards sexuality. This gives us a fascinating look into how people in the past expressed their feelings and desires. One amazing example is Niankhunum and Khnumhotep, who lived around 2494 to 2345 BCE. They are thought to be among the earliest recorded same-sex couples in history. These two men worked as royal manicurists for the pharaoh and left behind a historical legacy as an early example of a same-sex relationship. Their tomb, discovered by Ahmed Musa in 1964, has many images of the two men together in affectionate poses, like hugging and touching noses, which is similar to kissing. While the inscriptions in their tomb sometimes call them brothers or friends, the way they are shown suggests a much deeper connection. This shows that same-sex relationships were recognized and somewhat accepted in ancient Egyptian society. And let's not forget Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of ancient Egypt. She is famous for her cleverness and her romantic relationships with powerful men like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But Cleopatra was also known for her creative approach to pleasure. According to some stories, she made a kind of makeshift vibrator using a box filled with buzzing bees. The vibrations from the bees created a unique way for her to experience pleasure. This clever invention shows not just her ingenuity, but also how open the ancient Egyptians were about exploring sexual pleasure. In general, ancient Egyptians were not shy when it came to love and sexuality. Their art and literature often included images and stories about sexual activities and fertility. Many temples and tombs showed scenes of love and procreation, and symbols of fertility were very common. The god Min, who represented fertility, was often depicted with an erect phallus, symbolizing power and renewal. Ancient Egyptians embraced various forms of love and pleasure, showcasing a culture rich in understanding and expression. Ancient Egypt was a civilization full of surprises and fascinating customs. From their love of cats to their pioneering medical practices, they left behind a legacy that continues to intrigue us. If you enjoyed these crazy facts, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more mysterious anecdotes, and share your thoughts in the comments. What fact surprised you the most? Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of history.